Well, thanks for joining us on Political Voice. I am Moses Humphrey. Now, let's begin with a roundup of the biggest updates of happenings from around the world. Now, we begin in Israel, where the country's defense forces said on Monday that ground forces mounted limited raids in the Gaza Strip overnight to fight Palestinian gunmen, and that airstrikes were being focused on sites where Hamas was assembling to attack any wider Israeli invasion. In a televised briefing, Chief Military Spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said 222 people had now been confirmed as taken hostage during the October 7 cross-border onslaught by Hamas. Well, elsewhere in Pakistan, a special court on Monday indicted former Prime Minister Imran Khan and ex-Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi for alleged leakage of a diplomatic cable and violating the secret laws of the country. Khan was arrested in August after a case was filed against him for allegedly violating the Official Secrets Act by disclosing a secret diplomatic cable sent by the country's embassy in Washington in March last year. Finally, bringing it home to Nigeria. Nigeria's Supreme Court will today begin its sitting in the challenge mounted by opposition candidates against the election victory of President Bola Tinubu. Now, both Atiku Abubakar of the leading opposition, People's Democratic Party, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party are asking the court to overturn Tinubu's victory, which had been upheld by a lower tribunal. All right, and that'll be all on Global Update this morning. Now let's head into the main conversation for this morning on Political Voice. First, exactly 1 year after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu, called off its 8-month industrial action, President Bola Tinubu has approved the payment of their withheld salaries. Now, the latest directive was contained in a statement issued on Friday by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngalali. The government was, however, silent on the withheld salaries of other workers unions in the universities. We had also embarked, those who also embarked on the strike within the same period, and I'm talking from February 14 to October 7, 2022. Now, according to Ngalali, the president invoked a prerogative of mercy to waive the earlier no work, no pay rule imposed by the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, when Asuu embarked on the strike in 2022, the government cited Section 43, subsection 1A of the Trade Disputes Act to impose the no work, no pay rule on the workers. But Asuu kicked against the position, insisting that government failure to fulfill its commitment informed the strike. Meanwhile, the leadership of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, has kicked against the decision of the government, even as it threatened to embark on another round of strike if its members' withheld 4-month salary was not paid alongside that of Asuu. I have with me in the studio an educationist, public affairs commentator, Moses Adebayo. Well, good to have you with us in the studio.
Good morning, Moses, and the watching world. You look so fit this morning.
Oh yes, I've been doing some workout.
I can almost call you the fittest man alive, you know.
I see what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And you look, unique.
Really?
As always. Yes.
Oh, fine.
As always, and I like the African representation in your attire, the cap.
Proudly African, all the time.
Proudly African, I can see that. Good to have you once again.
Same here, thank you.
Now let's talk about Asuu, government. We know how hard things are biting in the country right now. What do you feel, or how do you take the president's presidential waiver being implemented now to ensure that at least out of the 8 months in which Asuu was on strike, 4 months pay will be added to the lecturers' pay. 4 months withheld will be added to
Anyway,
the lecturers.
coming from Ajuri Gilali, I hope that before the end of today, we'll hear something contrary. Because it's almost becoming a norm for this government. Their flip-flop policy hasn't really put them in good books with many Nigerians. But it's a very welcome development, and I'll tell you why. By proxy, I've been affected since, let me say, for some 8 months now. The simple reason is that, yes, I don't work for government. Again, maybe I work for them for some time. But you have friends in the industry that they will withhold their salaries for some time, and somehow it comes to you. There is a way you want to assist, do that. So to hear that the government suddenly they sound reconciliatory, I think it's a welcome development for me and for as many in the field. You will observe that when this announcement was made, I have heard from some lecturer friends, and for once, these are the guys that normally they sound so militant, they sound so hard. But I heard some of them speak. You could tell that they've taken time to now soft pedal. Oh, one of them even said, "We thank God, we thank the government for doing this." I said, I picked myself. Am I hearing the correct thing?
So are you saying that government has cowed the lecturers?
Well, I wouldn't want to use that word, lest someone gets offended. But truth is that we can't forever bicker. We can't fight all the time. Asu's case is something, I don't want to use the word unique, but if I'm forced to use that, the issue with Asuu is a long-standing one. I remember about 3 weeks ago, thereabouts, if I get my facts right, I was in an uncle's residence like that to pay a kind of courtesy visit. And this is a man that is so meticulous. He keeps virtually everything. Even if you are looking for dailies of the 60s, 70s, this is a man that does that. I stumbled on a particular newspaper. I think that should be in 1993. And I saw there, Asuu begins strike today. And what comes to mind is, this thing is a perennial thing. It's a forever thing. And it's an ugly one. And my problem ever is this. On the government side, you have finished product. I will explain myself. Same on the Asuu side. These are made men. They have arrived at their destination. But in between are the students, helpless ones, unsuspecting. Mm-hmm. These ones are being made. But you tend to come because of an ego clash, and you affect them again and again. Is there any wonder that sometimes when a Nigerian graduate goes out there, they look at you cynically. They suspect that maybe you have not been well trained. No thanks to the stop and start issue, Asuu government today, this cat and mouse. So I want to assume that this step taken by the government is a very good one, very apt, but then it's incumbent on both sides to ensure that this is done away with forever. And I think it's in the offing. Asuu to go on strike now will almost very difficult. One, the government is using both the carrot and the stick policy. That's what they've adopted. This is just the other side of the stick policy, carrot, dangling carrot for them. If Asuu decides to want to go on strike again, they will invoke the National Industrial Court Act that you can't go on strike except this. So if you say Asuu has been cowed, maybe you want to give another synonym. But for now, they have been tamed. Let me sound maybe a little more euphemistic. They've been tamed. And I want that for one reason. You can't afford to let or jeopardize the future of the students. You can't. If a student that is supposed to, that should take a 4-year course, and in the calendar year, 4 years for academic is different. You don't spend the entire 4 years there. But if you have to spend 4 years to do a 2-year course, 6 years to do a 4-year course, once I came across an undergraduate, he was in search of a job, so we started talking. The guy read pharmacy in Ife. He got admission into Ife at the age of 19. That was in 1995. He finished a pharmacy course that stayed just 5 years. He finished at the age of 29. 10 years. And when I asked him, he told me all that transpired when he was in school. If Ife is not having their internal wranglings, you have, what do you call now? Asuu going on strike, and on and on. A young man that had all going for him suddenly lost all enthusiasm because things were not going right. Okay, as I've said, I want a case where they'll put an end to all this once and for all. And the earlier they do this, the better. Asuu should please consider the fact that students' lives are involved, and it is too delicate to toy with.
Now we're asking Asuu to consider students' lives. Don't you think that's blackmailing Asuu? Seeing that In the past, the reasons for the strike has always been agreements not met.
Agree, true.
FG Asuu agreement, the 2009 agreement, has not been met. They're calling for release of revitalization funds. They're calling for end allowances. Now, government hasn't met some of these agreements. All right. Each time they call for talks, it's always, it's in the offing, and then they decide to embark on strike, and the aggrieved is being, is having more pain inflicted by you depriving them of salaries because they did not work. Why did they not work in the first place? Isn't it because there were agreements that you did not meet on your own side? So would we say government is right in its carrot stick approach?
I've always said this, and I still maintain my position. The tragedy of communication is to assume that it has taken place. If we communicate because I encode, you decode, and vice versa, you say something, I understand what you said, and I respond. I think the communication gap between Asuu and government over the years should be the major problem. When Yar'Adua signed the Revitalization Act in 2009 with Asuu, what Yar'Adua failed to tell them was that this is incremental, it is progressive. It's not one fell swoop, one act that will cover everything. Because that has been the interpretation of subsequent government from Jonathan to Buhari and even to Tinubu now, though Tinubu is here to really face their wrath. When he signed the deal with them in 2009, also maybe they didn't hear him, but one thing I know is that they got the wrong message, whether from the federal government side or from Asuu side, is the reason they keep going on strike. Because I remember when Buhari's government was, at still end, Minister Adamu said something like, over the years, it's just a matter of simple communication. What Yar'Adua signed with them in 2009 was not impossible for government. But sometimes you may sign a deal, it's just like a constitution. Those that frame the constitution, there are things they won't envisage. That's why you always have what? Amendment. That's the reason for amendment. Because take the Nigerian constitution, for example, some things that were signed in Nigeria that came into law being in 1999, some of them are obsolete today. And some they didn't envisage are already happening with us. When Jonathan had to succeed Yar'Adua, there was this invocation of child of necessity. They had to invoke, okay, henceforth, anybody that goes out after 21 days, any official, the deputy comes in. So it's a case of the deal of 2009 should have been revisited again and again. But sometimes mischief comes in. I've always said this. When you are in a particular field, your downing of tools should be possibly the last thing you think of. I've had reason to quarrel, let me use that word now, with doctors. And on the average, in any sane line, doctors should never go on strike. I know South Africa, I know France, I know Britain. If doctors or medical workers have anything to do with government, they have other industries who go on strike on their behalf, that is strike by proxy. Because you are dealing with lives. For every life lost, of course the strike will come off one day. Who is going to bring back those lives? Same applies to Asuu here. And not only Asuu, even Sanu, because from your prologue, Sanu is already bickering. They are grumbling. And I hope government, as they've done again and again, will not still adopt this divide and rule tactic. Because they will pay Asuu or they settle Asuu, Sanu will come up again.
Now we'll come to. I was hoping we'll get to Sanu much later, but since you've touched on the topic, let's look at it. Sanu being the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian universities, threatening to embark on strike if they are not paid part of what Asuu is getting. What do you make of that, really?
Again, I think it's about time the government did this. You invited them. Government, over time, whichever government administration now, they have this attitude of, let us just separate them, divide them and rule them. And it has not helped anyone. When you consider how impactful the importance of Sanu, then you know that what they are calling for, government must listen to them, because if they settle Asuu and Sanu is fighting that, where's ours? There is no way to still go back to Asuu. But most of these lecturers that are important in Asuu are from Sanu as well. And don't forget, there's still the NASO aspect of it. There's a non-academic staff union. Those ones, in no time, you hear them. It's only a matter of days. So what government should do is this. Asuu, you come, let's talk. Sanu, bring your representatives.
So
NASU, come alongside. Let us discuss this thing and thrash them out.
as it stands now, this seeming good deed by the government will only open
More cans of worm. More.
okay, that's what it seems like.
Oh, yes, that's what it has been like. See, it's a trend. This is not new. But I only hope that what should be new is that strike should be a forgotten issue in Nigeria. Because it affects the students. Ultimately, I've dealt with students for 2 decades and counting. I know what it means to be a Nigerian graduate out there. I had a reason once to, I thought of that. Can I go abroad and do 1 or 2 programs? But when I was told out and having Nigerian is perceived, I said, I can't go through the insults out there. I can't. So let me just stay here and whatever I have to wallow in my, whatever here in Nigeria, let me be. But I can't imagine going out there with all I think I know. Someone will still subject me to some ridicule. No. And that's how an having graduate is perceived. He's seen as a young man, a young lady, enterprising, promising, that should have a course done in 4 years. It becomes an 8-year course. All kind of enthusiasm, interest would have disappeared. So, government, please, you've done just 1/3 of the job. There is still Sanu, and I'm sure NASU, it's a matter of days, they'll come in with their own angle as well. So let the government ensure that all these things are done once and for all. Not, Asuu alone is not the reason why the university exists. There are other bodies there. So don't bring what you do with doctors. Because when they want to start doctors too, they only call the medical practitioners as a living out pharmacist, living as a radio, and all people that make up the medical apparatus. So please don't do this. You've done for Asuu, fine, but ensure that Sanu, NASU are also covered in this deal. Then we'll have peace. And our students will be well baked so they can go out there. Nigerian universities used to be a paragon of beauty in terms of intellectuality. People come from outside to study Nigeria. But now you go to our universities, so scanty. If you find a foreigner in Nigeria, maybe he's just for some research. But then they will come here, obtain our degrees, and go out there and excel. But what do we have today? Because of all this. So it must be stopped.
We're talking about obtaining our degrees and the universities being scanty. We see a situation whereby not too long ago, some students, as I think Lagos State University students, the University of Lagos, the University of Lagos students came out in protest. Some of them came out in protest the increase in school fees. And there are fears that more students will drop out of school if this increase is allowed. How do you see this affecting students in general now? And then will this effect touch on the lecturers also?
I guess what is playing in the government's mental mind now should be the student loan they've introduced. But what is ever different from what should be. I know they are banking on the fact that, okay, the indigenous students, the not well-to-do students, can always come in here, provided they meet the criteria of a 500,000 below in a year, your parents must be this and that, all the factors enlisted. I suspect that the schools will still come down. Some of them will come from their high horses. Already, I know of the ones you mentioned. There was like 1,000% increase. Normally, you pay 19,000 thereabouts when you are resuming as a student. But now you pay close to 190,000. That is unheard of. But we must also balance issues here. Education at any level, at the tertiary level, is never cheap. Look, the Nigerian government over the years, over the decades, I think they've always tied the ropes around their necks. They do this maybe unintentionally, but it comes back to bite them from behind. Nobody gives the impression in any advanced world to go to a university there is almost impossible. Obama was in Harvard. He didn't pay up until he became president almost 20-something years after. So going there, that's what I'm just saying, that going over there, going to university there is not child's play at all. Here we made it so affordable over the years.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing, really. But has it been sustainable? Is it not the reason Asuu go on strike all the time? Normally, any union should be a bit independent from the government. I know of Britain very well. Sometimes some unions go on strike, but when they go on strike, they tell their members, join us with this. Well, please, let's do this. But when the members say, okay, how do we get paid, remuneration and the like, they have they have their own base, financial base, whereby if the government they work for eventually fail to pay them, the union step into the gap and pay them for those days they go on strike. But this is for Asuu. Asuu is totally dependent on government. The reason, this happens all the time. If Asuu is a union whereby you have their own support base, regardless what government does, I think the lecturers won't grumble all the time because they go there disgruntled. I've seen some lecturers, I've asked, it seems you don't enjoy this job. Why should I enjoy it? Why? There is no this, we don't have that. Compared to our contemporaries in Ghana, in Benin Republic, and all manner of comparisons. Mine is that the increase is inevitable, no doubt about that. But is it too high? Yes. Will it come down? I think so. I think so. I don't understand too categorical here. But because 190,000 naira, 200,000 naira today, these subsidy times, some parents hardly get minimum wage, which is a paltry 30,000 naira.
What's your take on the student loan policy?
And let me say this quickly. It's not entirely new. Whose government started this then? I don't know more things. Was it Abacha thereabout? A government in the country started this student loan idea. They brought the idea first. But it was not tidy enough. People just hijacked it and the Nigerian factor came in. It became a conduit for, corruption. They stole from it and in no time, they destroyed the scheme. This time around, I think it's a bit more secure. You know why? The BVN is there. The NIN is there. And all that will ensure that there is harmony. Because when you have such schemes, what happens is that if you appear as Moses in one place, you appear as Humphrey in another place, you appear as Adebayo in another place, it becomes scattered. You can't really bring, who are we actually dealing with? Is it Moses? Is it Humphrey? Is it Adebayo? But with BVN, with NIN today, there is harmony. So that one Moses in Lagos, even if he tries to disguise in the Kano, they will easily identify him. So BVN, NIN and the like coming in will ensure that this student loan gets done. But I still won't rule out the human factor, the Nigerian factor. Is government really serious about pursuing corruption, fighting corruption? The EFC, the newly appointed chairman, made a boasted the other day that he's ready to fight this, same with the Inspector General of Police. But they shouldn't make us have just these sound bites. Let them act, because this needs a lot of monitoring. The student scheme it's not new. Sometimes we make rocket science of very petty issues elsewhere. I gave the example of Obama, and it's not said Obama alone. There have been many American senators, the like. They went there, they went into school as Indians, and they came out because there was a student loan scheme.
All right. Now let's come back to what we're talking about here, the prerogative of mercy that the president has invoked to ensure that the cries and sufferings of lecturers will be reduced. The big question is, because I mean, we'll look at the underlining intent.
Yeah, you suspect that there's an ulterior motive?
Could there be? Is there? Do you think there is?
But can you hide behind your finger? Can you be like the ostrich, proverbial one that will bury the heads in the sand and the entire body is out there? Government isn't doing any favor, paying Asuu.
So what do you think the government is doing there?
Is it that they want to be in the good books of Nigerians, if that's their intention, so be it? Is it that Asuu, they've been punished enough? I don't want to use that word because I know in a way it's affecting me. Government doing this right now is only, don't forget it's a new government, barely 4 or 5 months old, just to win. We can't fight all the time. That was the impression the Buhari government gave them. No work, no pay. But now, this government they seem to be soft pedaling. Okay, can we talk? And for the sake of this, because you look ultimately at what you want to achieve. We can't keep giving the world half-baked graduates. Some courses are so delicate. Imagine a medical student that should pass through school in 5 years, if I put it that way now, ends up spending close to 8 or 9 years in school. You can't expect that graduate to be what you intended originally. No. So doing this now, if they see it as a prerogative of mercy, because when you use that, when you made that statement, I felt when they let off the gulags, or is it a case of they wanted to go and hang them? Maybe the government.
No, the no work, no.
It's a stringent policy.
No pay rule. Yes.
It's unfortunately we can't be emotional here. It's what obtains everywhere in the world. ILO signed it into law then, and they domesticated most nations. You only get paid when you work. But what often leads to their strike should also be considered. But I am so grateful now that the autonomy, if I put it that way, granted to an extent, to Asuu now, let them not bastardize it. Because most of what comes in an university goes to the school. I know this. On the average, the only part government taking from any student is the tuition. The remaining is there for the school to manage. And we've heard of several cases of mismanagement among some of these Asuu members. Oh yes, a VC in Lag then, I won't mention the name now, renovated a building that needs no renovation for almost 15 million naira. Who does that? Who does that? So sometimes when you go to Equity, you go there with clean hands. If Asuu wants to fight something, I've asked of them, when do you guys come in when students are molested, ladies and guys? You don't say anything then. Can you tell me what Asuu has really done with respect to this student scheme? All you just say them is criticize. You come out with facts, evidences. Why do you think this thing will work? But no, when it comes to certain issues they should face squarely, they seem to dodge. But when it comes to them getting paid alone, that's only what concerns them. You don't do things that way. It's not about the money alone. You should concern about the welfare of the students as well. That is why some of us are advocating that Asuu should be made up of not only lecturers now, maybe students should be involved after its academic student union of universities. So they should be involved. Academic staff union of universities. Universities is not about just lecturers. It's about students as well. Maybe some what do you call now? Some SUG government officials should be involved in Asuu so that they can press home their demands as well. If Asuu will not get involved with these high school fees, then there's nothing that can be done. Some of these will force to pay it. But I know that some school management already they reduced it by 20,000 naira for all departments, but that is still too high for some people to pay. So, for all in all, I'm happy that government is doing this. I don't commend government. I only acknowledge that they've done this. They should do what they should do, but they should ensure also that they get these things done, pay them, don't just say you pay them, let them off the hook, and Asuu members too, please always consider who you are dealing with, the students, because that's my own subject matter.
All right then. Well, we must commend the government. When the government does something good, we must say, yes, thumbs up, you've done this one.
Acknowledge. They've not done it because it's their money. Acknowledge. Simple.
Oh, well. Thank you very much, Moses Adebayo. But we do have another topic still on education. The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on University Education has called for salary increments for primary, secondary, and university teachers. Now, Habubakar Fulata said teachers should earn 250,000 naira, between 200 and 500,000 naira. And then that's 250, 500, and 1 million naira respectively as monthly remuneration. Fulata was speaking at a one-day national stakeholders workshop on the development of a roadmap for the Nigerian education sector 2023 to 2027 in Abuja on Thursday last week. Fulata said it was important for Nigerian teachers to be more encouraged by paying them adequately to teach the children. He also stressed the need to translate all subject textbooks into local languages so as to catch up with the world. According to him, efforts have been made by past administrations as regards the country's education, but those efforts had not yielded the desired results. All right, so 250,000 naira to primary school teachers, 500,000 to secondary school teachers, that's least, and at least 1 million to the university teachers, high institutions. Sounds good, doesn't it? How feasible? If you believe the House of Rep member, then you should believe anything. Or you don't think it's something that can be done? Clearly, a classic case of the hands of Esau, the voice of Jacob. What they've just done is get the monkey off our back. The 160 million each for Prado, the Toyota, whatever. They've not come out because they love teachers. I take that with a pinch of salt. It's a case of, okay, before you help us to death, let us. They are grandstanding. Let me just put it that way. That's how I see it. They just want the case. What they call is this stealing by association now, or doing what is wrong? They say misery loves company. When you know you are doing what is untoward, what is not right, sometimes you want to drag as many along with you so that you have an excuse after all, you are part of it now. So this sudden care from the House of Rep members to me is not only suspected, but I believe that they are not
They are not just saying it because they care. They are saying because, okay, so that we have reason to breathe properly, give teachers too money. They're only trying to call it favor. It's just an emotional statement that has no basis at all. So I can see through the intentions. This is not real at all. Because they just want to say, okay, at least we are not the only one looking for that. We have also advocated that they should increase teacher salary. You know how teachers will always win hearts.
Now this brings me to another question. When proposals like this are made, and then we want to see them go into law, should there be a time frame between when proposals are made, bills are raised, and then it's made into law? That way people can say, okay, if we have waited for a period of time and you're not saying anything about this, then we shouldn't trust you next time.
Time simply is the unit of life. How do you measure one's life? It's not by virtue of time spent. There should be, yes, there should be. Okay, let me assuming but not conceding that the reps, they really mean well, or they want 500,000 naira, 250,000 naira for teachers in primary school, 500,000 naira for teachers in the secondary school, and 1 million naira for higher institution lecturers. Is it even feasible?
Is it feasible?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Because the other day, Joe Ajero and the TUC counterpart, OSIFO, they proposed this, and government told them in black and white, we can't pay that for now. So the House of Rep member coming out now to say this, of course they should know what happened then. They know what happened in the country. Saying this, as I've said, even if I want to believe that they mean well, let's government truly look into the sector, and not just federal government now, because education is on a concurrent list. It doesn't have to do federal government alone. Even state governments, and by way of extension, local government. I know that local government areas, they manage the primary school level. Can a local government pay 50,000 naira? Sometimes when these people talk, you wonder, do they know what they're saying at all? Because most primary schools are under the purview of local government areas. How much is the salary of even a councillor or local government chairman? So sometimes when they speak, you know that they only want to grandstand, they want to play to the gallery. But all in all, let all tiers of government always consider that our lives. Today we brag, we want to say anything about China because they are doing well. We will talk about the Americas, these established countries. Whatever they've become, you can trace it to the fact that they had strong education policies, very strong ones.
Now, talking about education policy, another point that the House of Reps member raised was education being done in our local language as against English. Now, we do understand that as a result of the dynamics of our society, indigenous language differs from region to region.
True.
What would you propose? How do you relate to that? And what would you propose as it concerns the language? Should we have a common language in which children will be taught? Should we stick to English being the language of our colonial masters? He cited an example of China and France, where students are taught mathematics, chemistry, and all of that in the local language, which helps them to understand better. What should we do as a country now? Should we be taught in English? Should we stay with Igbo, Yoruba, Igbo or Yoruba and Hausa? Or should we go into Efik and the rest of them?
Your question is about 40 years.
Or should we speak pidgin English?
Your question, again, is about 40 years behind schedule. And not that it's not relevant, it's still ever relevant. I will always go back to possibly the most outstanding minister we've ever had in education, that's Babsa Fuwa, the man that designed the 63-4 policy. They've muted this idea forever. Well, I think one of the major reasons we won't get this almost become a reality is the divergence of culture, language all over. Which language actually will be? If you have to, as he said that Nigeria has about 250 languages and counting. Which one exactly? That's why we are restrained. We are duty bound to accept English as the common language. Otherwise, you talk of China, you talk of France, you can almost say that these are countries that colonized them. These are countries that had, they are actually the original countries. Most African countries are a contraction of Europe. They made them up. That's why today you find Yorubas in Nigeria, you find them in Benin Republic. They just scattered all manner when they did their Berlin conference, 1884 and 1885. That was their aim, to ensure that they decimate the black race down, who they see as inferior. But that's shame on them. We will always run into this cul-de-sac of which language exactly, but there can always be a way out. As much as we have so many cultures, so many languages, backgrounds, we can as well adopt English on the national scale, but in the federating units, we can adopt our languages. I've seen this done in some state assemblies. Lagos, I was told, I think on Wednesdays, you only speak Yoruba in the House of Assembly. And they want to ensure that this is done. Also, what has not helped us over time is when we deem our own culture as inferior. I deal with students. And when you hear them, when you see them react to, when they get good grades in certain, so maybe students call in Yoruba, maybe A1 in Igbo, or even Hausa.
They don't feel excited.
Not at all. They won't tell you that, as in, you can see, they will just dismiss it. So, and this is just a national malaise. When your language, I'm sure you were guilty of that, but you look like someone who would disturb class very much when you were in school. Your name will always appear on the list of noise-making students. Why? Because they speak vernacular. They speak vernacular. And vernacular itself, the origin is an insulting one, not a very good one. The vernacular is deemed as a language for the misfits, the dread of society. But they've made us see our language as vernacular. You may even be fine if you speak vernacular. And that has worked with us over, and unfortunately so. Truth is this, we can't but adopt the English language as our national language. But you raised something there. Can we go for pidgin? Is it possible?
Is it possible?
I've had this over time that some professor somewhere, they're compiling the dictionary in pidgin, but it's never seen the light of the day. We can't keep going round and round circle. If we are truly serious about domesticating certain aspects of our lives, good. You consider something like chemistry, where they have all these grandiose names, 2,2-dichloro, whatever. There is a version of it in China, a version of it in Japan. When you hear that a Japanese scientist has won a Nobel Prize in physics or chemistry, they didn't earn it because they wrote their thesis or they applied in English. No, they wrote it in their language. And it comes home better when you speak your own language to your own people.
You get to explain a lot of things better.
Better. And that's one of our bane here. If we don't develop here, as I've said, it's because our education policy is faulty, and in return, it affects the nation. Again and again, today the manufacturing hub of the world is China. What did China do? They converted 600 universities about 2-3 years ago to polytechnics. They knew where they are headed for. They understood that this is our national policy, our national thrust, and the road there is our education. So they ensured that they brought the manpower policy further down, because polytechnics speaks better language when it comes to anything technology. So they converted their universities to polytechnics. In Britain felt we are now a consulting economy, a first class for that matter. They converted with our polytechnics to universities. So the more we know what we want as a nation, the easier it becomes. I've always told myself, I remember once I had an encounter somewhere. I was to go and receive an award in a place among some colleagues.
Okay. And
the rule was that you come there in your jacket. And I was told that some correspondent from other parts of the world will come around. I told myself, okay. I got there in my danshik, trying to emulate Professor Wole Soyinka, when he received a Nobel Prize in 1986. He was putting on his traditional attire. So I put on the danshiki, I got there, and when I got to the gate, I showed them the pass. I'm eligible, I should be here. They said, no, but you are not putting on jacket. I said, I am supposed to be here. I gave them reasons why I should be there. I still was stopped. Then I raised my voice. I ensured that the place became uncomfortable. Before long, they heard what was going on at the gate inside. They came around, sorry, it's one of the restaurants, let him come in. When I was given the award, I spoke in Nigerian language. I won't tell you which one now. And before I received the award, I told them, I'm going to speak a language. If there is an interpreter here, fine. If there is none, I can't help it. Unfortunately, for that event, there was no interpreter. I went ahead, spoke Nigerian language, appreciated them that. When I spoke in tongues, some of them, I don't care. But what I'm just saying is that...
Did you communicate then?
Pardon?
Did you communicate? You did say something at
of course,
the show.
This was deliberate. This was deliberate. From my attire to my language that day, I let them know that this is my country. I am a Nigerian. Look, if we keep this subjugating mentality with us, we ain't going anywhere.
Now, the diversity in our language, how is that helping us?
It's not helping us at all. The fact that 3 ethnic groups see themselves as major, others are minor, It's not helping us at all. You look at me, tell me that Ibibio, Efik is inferior. We have more than 10 million nationals that are from the Efik background. Ibibio. You have those that speak Fufude and the like. But yet, the three dominant ones will tell you that we're in charge. Nobody comes in. And we even extend that to our political lives. It must be, after one Yoruba man, it should be an Igbo man, and like that. And it's unfortunate. If we don't get the buy-in of some of these, in quote, minor ethnic groups, we ain't going anywhere. Maybe pidgin will be for us. Maybe. But then we've got to structure that pidgin. They speak, what do you call now, patois in Jamaica. And it's as in a kind of bastardized form of English. It's English original, but it's a pidgin form of English. And it's well accepted among Jamaicans. They've extended to the Dominican Republic and the environment. Nigerians, if we're ever going to adopt any language apart from English language, it should be the pidgin, but then it must be structured. There must be a dictionary for it, thesaurus, and what have you. If you don't do that, you ain't going anywhere. No.
All right, then. Now, still on the language, speaking of languages, we also do know that certain institutions tend to give special days where students can, speak their languages in school. Now,
Yeah,
that's newly introduced. But then we still see that even in the home front, most children do not speak their indigenous dialect in the home front. And then we see a situation whereby you find yourself in other climes and you cannot communicate in what's your local dialect with somebody from your area, and you're forced to speak English. It's an embarrassing situation. How can it be stopped or in the least corrected?
What you've not said is that our languages, our dialects, all that represent us, they are endangered. And not thanks to the surreptitious move of so-called globalization. They make you see your own culture as inferior. That was the French policy then, this assimilation policy, whereby everything you do is second class. You take ours as first class. Again, somehow, globalization has even further worsened the case. But let's not lose the thrust of our discussion. It's about the House of Rep member. House of Rep member that wants an increase in salary for teachers at all levels. Our language is our best form of representation. When you get home, you still deprive your children of your language. Then as a parent, you should have yourself examined. We find it, let me go with the word my son used, touche, because you speak the English language. But you find it as an irritating when you speak your mother tongue. And let me go centuries back. Is it J.J. Agre now? Said, I am black, I'm proud of my color. He who is not proud of his color is not fit to live. If you are not proud of your background, then sorry, you are not to be regarded. For me, I speak the language, the Nigerian language I understand very well, 2 or 3 of them. Wherever I go, that's my identity. What separates you from others? When parents see their children speaking the foreign language and they gloat, they are so proud of that, but they don't care. Though I must commend one ethnic group as in the Igbos. Most Igbos I know, they have this policy, whether it's deliberate or indeliberate, but when they get home, they speak their language at home. You, the boy, you ask your dad in English, he responds in Igbo. I think others too should do this. I know of, I think Professor Ishola, he's late now, an elder scholar in University of Ibadan. He did this, not only Professor Ishola now, Adebayo Faleti, also of blessed memory. These are men that they wrote books in Yoruba, and the level of influence they exerted then, they ensure that within Oyo State or Osun State, because these men are from that region, they ensure that they speak this language, they wrote in this language, they encourage so many to speak the language. That is why Bola Ige in 1979, when he became governor of Oyo State, the then old Oyo State, he ensured that whenever he's reading the budget, whenever he's passing across a message, he does that in Yoruba language. So it's only natural for parents to know that if we continue this way, in less than 100 years, our language will go extinct. And where do you belong in the human race if you've lost your identity? So you are not doing yourself any world of good when you make it a law that your children only speak English, but then at the detriment of your own language. There's something cool about that. And I've told myself, I probably find myself at the higher level of academic rank someday, I have said it and I've said it to so many that care to listen. When I'm there, if you don't pass a Nigerian language, you're not going to school. You won't enter any school. You must pass a Nigerian language because sometimes we have to be coercive. Otherwise, we'll lose all that belongs to us. I won't go out there tomorrow and start bearing one James. Yes, I bear Moses, but I have my local name, which you fail to or you tell the world. You've said it before. So I want a case where we will really evaluate ourselves. Let's sit down before the mirror and look at the men or women before the mirror and tell ourselves the gospel truth. We are not helping any issue if we continue to bring down our own culture, our own lifestyle, and elevate others. And they make you look as though you are doing the wrong thing if you speak language. Far be that I describe my father's house with my left hand. No.
All right, that's a proverb there. All right, then, thank you very much, Moses Adebayo. And to answer the question you raised earlier, among the students, I was a very quiet one back in school then, just so you know.
You don't look it.
Just so you know.
No, you don't look it.
Just so you know.
Looks can be deceptive.
I had to address that one. Now, before we go, how about you say something in your language? Look at that.
Ẹ̀yin ọmọ tẹ́ ń wò wá báyìí, tẹ́ ń rí wa, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ẹ má jẹ́ kí èdè wa àti àṣà wa kó di ohun ìgbàgbé. Now, what have I said? Those watching, especially children, because the future lies in your hands, don't let our own language, our culture, all that represent us go into extinction. There is nothing to be proud of if you see your own language as second class or third class and adopt a language where sometimes you don't even speak it the way they speak it. You go there, in UK, for example.
Moses, I thought your middle name is Orished
Jolomi. Yes,
where are you from
a Warri background.
Where are you from again? Warri?
But
how come
then,
it's Yoruba you
I
spoke?
have lived all my life in Lagos.
So you didn't speak your dialect,
I
actually.
spoke in Nigerian language.
All right, then. You just failed.
You failed,
You just failed. All right, that's Political Voice for today. We'll be back here same time tomorrow. I am Moses Humphrey. On behalf of the team, I wish you a beautiful day. Bye for now.